Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are and wherever you might be coming in from around the world. We have a great Workspot webinar for you guys today. We've had a lot of good ones in the past. This one might be way up there on the top. We have the Wood Rodgers Dream Team with us today. This is a customer of ours that has a great story to tell. And as you guys can see from the slide that's in front of you here, we have the whole team. We've got Mark Rodgers, the CEO, co-founder, president, and Carrie, VP of Civil and Technology, and Mike, Director of IT, and then one of the power users who's going to do a demo later on today. Now listen, over the course of this webinar, we want this to be very interactive, all right? So the idea is like jump in the question box and go ahead and ask your questions. You've got experts that are on the webinar today. Ask the questions. We will field those questions real time as we go. In fact, jump in the question box right now and just say hi. Just go in there and say, you know, who you are and where you're from today, okay? We want to see where people are coming in from around the world. And with that, we're going to go around the horn and do some intros here, talk to our guests today, find out where they're coming in from and their story, just to kind of warm things up, okay? So again, jump in that question box and go ahead and tell us who you are and where you're from. See, like Tyler already jumped in, right? He's from San Luis Obispo, California. And Mike Davis from upstate New York, and David from Greenville, South Carolina. I love it. Keep it coming. All right. Hey, now, while those guys are feeding me, Mark, CEO, co-founder, PE, president, you might have some more sort of acronyms in front of you as well. Where are you from? And share your intro. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Hi, everybody. I don't have any more acronyms to go after my name. I think you get them all. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Rodgers. I am the president of Wood Rodgers. We are a consulting, mainly civil engineering firm that is where we have offices in California and Nevada. We started the company back in 1997. Today we have close to 280 staff. We're extremely multidisciplined. Do you have the next slide by chance there?
Oh, we're going to get in that in a minute. This is just the high-level intro. Super high-level intro.
Multidisciplined.
We're just warming up. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, thank you. we do a lot of very heavy computing. Thanks.
Cool. Hey, Carl, where are you from? Sorry, Carrie.
This is Carrie. I'm from.
Sorry, Carrie. Where are you?
That's all right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
From Reno, Nevada. I'm a vice president at Wood Rodgers, and I'm in charge of the technology group, and I'm also a civil engineer.
Excellent. Okay, and Mike.
Hey, sorry, Mike. I was muted. Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Albrecht. I'm originally from Las Vegas and lived all around the world. I'm a retired naval officer, and I've been working with Wood Rodgers for the last year.
Hey, excellent. You know, I see some other folks online coming in as well. So we've got Carl, this is Carl, sorry, Carrie. This is why I was reading it on my screen here. Carl Chessel is coming in from Ottawa, Canada. So I thought that's pretty amazing. Brent from Minnesota, some folks from Iowa, Pennsylvania, just all over the place, right? So I love it. Hey, you know what? We have another gentleman connected today who's going to do the live demo, and that is Paul. So Paul, he is actually connected in way out in the sticks. He's so far out in the sticks, they don't have sticks out in those sticks. He's connected into his Workspot workstation, and he's running GoToWebinar in the workstation. You're going to see all that demo in a minute. Hey, so Paul, you want to say hi?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Paul Petrowski. I'm a registered engineer myself, and I'm a director of the CAD technology at Wood Rodgers, and I've been there about 8 years. And we're just excited to be here with you today to show you some stuff.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks to everybody. Now, again, I'm going to promote the notion of interaction here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll of the day. So what is your primary working location out there? Obviously, we know we got a lot of folks working from home. Sometimes there's people that can actually get into the office, especially if they work in there alone, you know, or maybe very, very few folks. And so the idea here is you jump in and you punch the button that makes sense for you. And as you guys finish up the polls, I'm going to go ahead and close the polls and share the results. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and share those results. And you guys are going to see, look at this. Yeah, as you would expect. 3/4 of the folks are home right now working, right? 22% are working in the office. Now, feel free to go in your little question box, those of you guys that are working in the office, and let me know. Are you guys working as a group in there, or are you still sort of working lonely? Maybe you got a mask on. Let me know. You know, hopefully you guys are all safe. All right, so now I'm going to ask you one more question before we continue, and that is a really cool question here, which is, what are your biggest concerns with remote working? Now, this is multiple choice, so tell you what, take a look at these and pick your top 2. So what, security costs, performance productivity, the additional effort associated with this, pick your top 2 in here. And when we get all that loaded up, I'm going to close the polls and I'm going to share the results and we're going to see, okay? All right, it's completely getting loaded right now. I'm going to go ahead and close it. Hopefully you guys have all voted. I'm going to close the polls and then share the results. Okay, so yeah. That's what I would have expected. We've been doing this for the last several webinars and we've been seeing a lot of folks. It's like, let's get productivity taken care of. And then after that, the notion, of course, it's got to be secure and then cost, as well as, yeah, there's additional effort in this for sure. Well, we're going to talk all about this today for sure. And so as we do, and I go on to this next slide, before we do it, it's like, Mark, it's like, what do you think of those results? Is that what you expected?
Well, it's absolutely what I expected. My concern, and our concern in general at Wood Rodgers was, translating very quickly to a very large number of our folks working from home and being productive. You can always be productive administratively, really through a VPN connection, which gives us what we need. But when it comes to heavy computing and the size of the improvement plan sets, all the things we do, whether GIS, Autodesk, or otherwise, or other modeling programs that we use, to be productive and to have that computing power is paramount. And so It was numero uno on our list for sure.
Excellent. Well, agreed. And in the last several surveys, it's been the same. It's productivity first, security, cost. It's been very similar. Now, with these webinars, what I love to do, especially in this one, is start off with a bit of a punchline. It's like, what did you guys do? Why are we here today? What are folks going to hear? So if you could kind of take a couple of slides here and share that, and then more about the company also.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, I want to say that I feel like we redefined working from home again because of the level of production that we're getting out of our system, and that system involves the Workspot platform, the VDI platform that allows us to do what we need to do from just about any device. It's really amazing what it does, and you'll hear a lot about this later. But to be able to do the same computing on your phone that you can do on a $5,000 tower is phenomenal. Anyway, so how we actually we give our folks a lot of autonomy in terms of how they do their projects. Our mantra is give people the tools and get out of the way. And so that what that translated to was allowing folks to work from home, from a number of years ago. And so we migrated to the Workspot platform for some of our office expansions rather than getting controllers. And what that did, that also translated to folks being able to work from home and work from a remote environment. And so I feel like I can't say we actually redefined that, but we expanded pretty heavily on that. When we hit the wall in terms of the pandemic, which I'm sure everybody's talking about almost way too much today, but it's very much in our lives on a daily basis. We had to translate to sending really 95% of our staff home to work, and that was mandated by the state of California, and actually by the state of Nevada in a sense as well. So we did that, and we had to immediately translate or transfer a lot of our computing power to those home stations, whether it be in any home station, not using work PCs, but whatever people had at home. And so that to accomplish that, we really had to get very quickly up to get to Workspot. I think we purchased 120 licenses immediately, and our IT folks worked very hard. We put that to work, and today, through a lot of hard work, our folks are being almost as productive. I would say as productive at home. In fact, sometimes maybe even better because of the less distractions in terms of the work environment. We feel like we're doing very well in that climate. Is there another slide there, Brad?
Let's hear more about Wood Rodgers, the company. And who's that young guy in that picture on the right?
Yeah, really, geez Louise. I am the guy on the right. I'm a little heavier than that now, but anyway, we were established in 1997. We did, wanted to form a company that was different from the others that we had worked with worked for, both Rich Wood and myself, that we had worked for over the years, and that translated to just a kind of a different culture in terms of getting work done. We were a little bit of a work hard, play hard group. We weren't afraid to take chances. We weren't afraid to try things that we had not done before, and to learn how to be experts in areas that we weren't ultimately familiar with, and that all paid off. So today we have a very multidisciplined office that includes civil engineering, transportation engineering, offices, I should say. We have 8 offices in California, Nevada. We are headquartered in Sacramento, but we also do a ton of flood control, water resources, hydrogeology, water, wastewater design, structural engineering, land planning, surveying, of course, landscape architecture, and that incorporates a lot of different programming and modeling. Our GIS systems are excellent. We have a number of programmers in that area as well. Where we are a little bit different is we're not afraid to invest in technology, which I think Carrie Chisholm will talk a little bit about as we get through the hour today. We're a little unique. We're a little unique. We like being different, and being different and taking chances and acting quickly is what has really paid off for us in this current environment that we're in today. Thanks.
All right, hey, and a little bit about something else that's made it viable for you guys to roll this out so quickly to your employees is your culture.
That is true. We do have a pretty vibrant culture in our office in terms of how we treat employees. How we there's so many things we do, from food in the kitchens to allowing people the autonomy to do the work how they think they need to do it. Allow groups the autonomy to approach projects and solutions from different angles, different ideas. And that itself, I think, has set us apart from a lot of the companies that might be mired down a little bit in a very heavy corporate strategy. And so that itself has allowed our folks to grow. And in growing and in doing so, many of them are remote access type people.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Hey, you know what? From that, I'm going to throw a couple more polling questions out there for you guys to chew on. How do you describe your business today? Is it sort of concentrated in a single area? Is it across the country? Is it international? And then realize, if you've got contractors, any folks working for you, whether they're employees or otherwise, internationally, well, you're an international company. You might not even realize it. So let's get those votes cast, and we can see the makeup of the audience that we have here today. I'm going to go ahead and close those polls. Thank you. And share the results. And so you can see, it's an interesting distribution. A lot of the folks, 80%, are multiple locations across the country. Very, very common. About 10 or 11% of the folks there even have international, and some are actually very concentrated. So that's cool. That's good to know. So from that, let me go ahead and hide that, and let's go ahead and show you or ask you one more polling question. And this is a fun one that I like to ask all the time, which is, do you have a cloud-first strategy? Now, either you have a cloud-first strategy and it's enforced across the company, or the company, or it's departmentally owned. And by the way, cloud-first means that you have to actually consider the notion of getting outside cloud-based resources before you just put on-prem services and so forth. All right. So let's take a look at that. Let's go ahead and close this polls and then hide or share the results there so everyone can see it. And yeah, look at that. And this number gets bigger all the time. This notion of having a cloud-first strategy is getting broadly adopted. But we're also seeing this interesting number. 35% of the folks don't have it today. It doesn't mean they don't use the cloud. It just means they may not have a corporate strategy for that. And so I think you'll find over time that might change, and probably especially with the pandemic and the actions associated with this, it's probably time to investigate that more wholeheartedly, I would suspect. Well, you know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop into a little slide here, which is kind of a punchline of mine before we get the webinar even going further along, which is the notion. You see the slide here? It's the notion of moving your CPU and your GPU and your data all into Azure. okay? You put it all in Azure, and then your employees and contractors and so forth can access it from anywhere. So the key there is when you're accessing it to have the least latency as possible, good bandwidth, low latent connection. And once you get inside the cloud, then you're gonna have CPU, GPU crushing your data, opening files, closing files, massive productivity. This could be in one region of Azure, but it could be in many regions of Azure as well, okay? And so that's the key, that's the punchline. And this is what you're gonna see architecturally from us at Workspot, as well as the Wood Rodgers story. So the last polling question before we jump into the Workspot section is this: are you using Azure today? And this is multiple choice. So with this, you can go in and you can pick as many of those as apply to you, okay? So what are you using out of Azure today? Office 365, Active Directory, server, data, whatever it is. And not yet, some of you may not even be there yet, and that's interesting as well, all right? So let's run those polls up, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the polls and share the results. Boom, okay. And look at that. Yeah, it's interesting. Azure Active Directory is usually always the winner. It's up there, it's 54, but we even have server workloads and data that's going on, and even other services. Only 17% of the crew that's on today, and there's a lot of people on today, are actually not even in Azure. That number gets smaller and smaller all the time. So that's really good to see. The next part of this story that we're going to proceed with is the story of Azure, because it's the underlying platform of how we're doing all this, okay? Now, the slide you see right there, 58 regions globally of Azure around the world, and this is growing all the time, right? You can see all the little blue dots and all the little labels, so where they're located. And then the orange interconnects are the multi-stranded fiber interconnects between all of those. So it's just like, gigabits per second, terabits per second in some cases between these locations. And so Azure has this $25 billion investment in growing every year, every month, every quarter that goes by. This continues to expand. And you can think of this as, okay, so my data center, has limited resources and so on and so on. I can think of this as my data center now, especially when you work with Workspot. As a customer of Workspot, that's your palette. Do you have employees anywhere in the world? We can launch them right next to those blue dots and give them high bandwidth connectivity back to wherever they need to connect with. And of course, security certifications, within Azure are always key. Is this secure, right? Take a look at this laundry list of various certifications, all the way up to, US Gov, industrial, regional, and global, and so forth. And then beyond that, the notion of just trillions of diverse signals going on inside Azure that are being monitored all day long. 3,500 security experts and just $1 billion spent with smart people watching the system, automating this mechanism for it to be as secure and available as possible. All right, so that's the notion of Azure as a platform. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions here before we jump into the Workspot part, and that is this. Have you tried on-prem VDI before? All right, historically in the past, have you done it with some success or maybe limited success, or maybe you haven't tried it at all? That's cool. A lot of times, folks we talk to haven't, because people they know have tried it where it hasn't worked. And oftentimes when you're trying to do on-prem VDI where you're doing GPU virtualization, it's even more difficult and so on. Okay, we're going to go into those details in a bit. So I'll go ahead and share those results, and there you go. It's like you can see this pyramid here, 46% not even tried it. Probably have learned about it from other people's experiences. A third of the folks with limited success, and some folks actually found success there too. So that's cool. All right, now this last question before I jump straight into the Workspot section is this: are you interested in cloud desktops or workstations? Now that is, a desktop is a Windows 10, cloud machine, a virtual machine running in the cloud, or a GPU accelerated Windows 10 virtual machine is a workstation. Okay, so you can think of all the different workloads, and we're going to talk about those in a minute, that would be ideal for just like a computer or a GPU accelerated one. All right, you click on them both, whichever ones you think you might need. I'm going to go ahead and close the polls, and then we're going to go ahead and share those results too. And look at that. As expected, on a call like today, there's a lot of folks looking for GPU accelerated cloud workstations. And then there's all sorts of use cases and reasons as well for just the desktops. And we're going to talk about all those in great detail, okay? We're going to even look at some of the specs. And then we're going to hear from Mike and Carrie, and then even Paul on his demo on what they're using and why they chose to use it, okay? Now, from my perspective on Workspot, just a little history here. It was challenging to do this historically. You'd have to ship equipment out. You can see the challenges business and technology-wise on the right-hand side. trying to connect people together, VPN connections, moving large amounts of data and that sort of thing. This is sort of, how we had done this in the past. It was really to some degree the only way you could do it. And then along came the notion of VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. Now, on-prem VDI, historically, you'd centralize it in a data center, and then you'd ask everybody to come in from the outside world. But you couldn't, it's like high upfront capex and complexity was associated with this, and then long, latency would make that end user experience actually diminish over time. So a lot of challenges here as well. So what we've done is very different with Workspot. If you look in that upper right-hand corner, as I showed you before, 58 regions of Azure around the world. Imagine the Workspot cloud connecting to that infrastructure globally, connected together in such a way that we can actually launch a desktop or a workstation anywhere in the world on that platform closest to your end user to give them great response time and then high-speed connections into the data they need to interact with to be productive. Okay, that's the idea. Now, as we said before, is it desktops or is it workstations, right? We have a series of desktops along the price performance curve growing up into a series of workstations. And this is only two of the workstations. It kind of goes up even further. The interesting thing about this is like productivity apps down here, maybe call centers way down here, maybe knowledge workers, doing office productivity, and maybe, a little Adobe in there, right? But when you get off into the GPU world, then you can have, Civil 3D and Revit and Esri and other apps that we're going to show you today. And you're going to see those running, and we'll talk about configurations that you would choose for those. So we've offered this in many ways with the NVIDIA Tesla M60 GPU, and now we've added the AMD processor up in Azure as it's been new. Now the cool part about this is with AMD, it's actually fractional. So you can get 1/8 of a GPU or 1/4 or 1/2 of the full GPU. That allows you to get further down the price performance curve and still give a fractional GPU to the end user that may still sort of need it for maybe, again, some Adobe apps or other things like that, and so it's very flexible, the memory configurations, the disk speed and so forth. You can see the regions that it's in today and then growing beyond that, okay? Now, how do we do this? We at Workspot aggregate all these services on Azure together, turn it into a solution and deliver it to your users. And this is how we do it here. Check it out. The Workspot Cloud Desktop Fabric. So all the way down in the bottom is Azure. Globally around the world, 58 regions, all sorts of tiny little services of CPU, memory, storage, networking, authentication, multi-factor authentication, whatever it might be. On top of that, we layer in our fabric, which allows you to pick a master region and then any expansion region you want around the world. Above that, we establish use cases. So is it call centers? Is it knowledge workers? Is it engineers? Is it construction? Whatever it might be. And on top of that, the actual individual users themselves tied into their security policies. So imagine this fabric here. You grab any number of users you want with their security policies, vector them down in through a use case, which would be like a Windows 10 or a desktop or a workstation with these apps installed, and then lay that down on top of either the master or the replicated expansion regions. And from all that, we grab all the necessary underlying resources in Azure automatically and aggregate those together into a desktop and a workstation and deliver that to that user, tightly coupled into your organization. That's the notion. Now we do all this as a turnkey service with a 99.95 SLA and at a flat fixed fee, okay? A flat fixed fee, so per desktop or per workstation, keeping it all super simple. So with that, as we've worked with lots of customers, we've experienced all sorts of applications that are out there. And you can see Eunice, from Wood Rodgers, a AutoCAD power user on Workspot, is cranking away on this. I think Carrie or Mike, what did we say? She's cranking on Civil 3D maybe, but she's got, what's this she's drinking here?
I believe that's a Bloody Mary.
A Bloody Mary. All right.
No, but that's actually her using a thin client over Wi-Fi running Civil 3D in Workspot.
Love it. All right, cool. And hopefully it's like maybe late Friday afternoon with the Bloody Mary here. It's like no questions. Got it. Hey, all these applications behave differently, right? So some of them crush the GPU, some are multi-threaded, some are single-threaded and crank on a CPU. So that's that whole price performance curve. Figure out what your users and their use cases are, their applications, they're all tested, lots of data. I know you guys done a ton of testing. We're going to hear about that. Pick the right entity, the desktop or the workstation configuration for them. We also have a lot of customers doing this out there, as you can imagine. Now, Wood Rodgers is in the spotlight today for sure. Plenty more, lots of experiences and success out there. We got Megan working from home over here on the left. another power user offering up a nice photo of her cranking away with a laptop and a remote desktop too. Mike, can you tell what she's working on there?
It looks like it's Civil 3D again. I can't really tell, but yeah, she's just using her just a standard laptop at home and replicating it with her multiple monitors and probably Wi-Fi connections. What it looks like. I can't tell if she's connected on Cat5 or not.
She's not. She's on a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah. Hey, way to go. And so that's what this demo we're going to see later by Paul is going to be tying all this stuff together on a really interesting connection. Now, we work with all of our customers to gather their financial analysis of sort of pre and post, capex to opex. All the expenses in the capex world you might not have realized sort of go away when you go with a flat fixed fee subscription model. And all this stuff we can share with you guys, and so you can bake your information into it and take value out of it as well. Now, we're going to spend just a minute here. This is the actual architecture. So Mike knows this really well. We worked together closely. He worked with our customer success team to actually implement Wood Rodgers in this way. Okay, right, Mike? So you and me on this one, man. Down in the lower right-hand corner, that's your data center. Now that's in Sacramento, right?
Right. Yeah. We had a data center in Sacramento where we did some HP enterprise servers running VMware, but we didn't host any virtual desktops there. We all had towers and used it basically for storage and Active Directory, your standard kind of network layout.
And then before you approached Workspot, did you guys have an instance in Azure already yourself? Were you up there?
We did as a backup for our Panzura controller. We had a controller, but it was really just kind of used as a HA for any kind of disaster recovery.
Cool. All right. So you had a little going on over here, which is cool, because then when you came to us, you realize when you go to Workspot and you go, hey, I need my first desktops or workstations, we drop in an additional subscription on your behalf, separated but tightly coupled together with VNet peering, so that effectively they're on the same super high-speed network in that same Azure region. And with that, we work with you guys to establish this little thing here, which is the Windows template that sits in blob storage. So that's your Windows 10 image configured the way you want it. How did you guys configure that?
Yeah, we've got, because we're such a multidisciplined company, we have so many different types of applications, and anybody in the AEC space knows the licensing aspect with those applications can be troubling, especially in a virtual environment. So we kind of built out standard gold discs, if you were, by discipline, and that's kind of where we hosted them there. And we did everything from when we first started a year ago, I think we had some like 1803 models, and then now we're focused strictly on the 1903 Windows 10, and that's what we've implemented in response to the COVID.
That's cool. Now, one of the big differences left to right here is on the right-hand side, you put things in here you like, and then you give an Azure Admin UI and an Azure bill. It's a monthly bill. Whatever you pay, you pay. On the left-hand side, that's not the case. There is no Azure Admin UI or Azure bill over here. You have the Workspot administrative UI through the Workspot cloud, right? And then you have the flat fixed fee per desktop or workstation. So you kind of sit over here, and in a browser interface, you'll actually associate people with their desktop. You get their security policies together and configure all that. And then that metadata gets pushed down into this area here, as well as it gets pushed down to the Workspot client. So when the end user wants to click on the client and launch their workstation, it has everything it needs, and it makes a direct connection into the RD gateway, launches that image that you created for it. And when it launches, it has super high speed access to authentication, as well as backend app servers, data, the whole deal in there, right? And then all of that is being monitored all the way along the way. You can tell when things are launching, when they're working, and so forth. And you can see the difference between the control plane, the dotted lines, and the data plane. Architecturally, on our part, that's key that we keep those separate. You don't want to launder your data through areas of the cloud that's just not necessary. So that's separate. So why don't you talk for just a minute about deployment, how you set up security policies for folks and those sorts of things.
Yeah, so you can group them all by different policies based off of what their specific needs are, what type of access that they need. The web management console for Workspot's super simple, very easy to use. I can run it on my cell phone and see what's going on. And if you have a help desk and you have some tier 1 folks, it's very intuitive, very easy for them to see what's going on and get them a lot of insight to any issue that a user might be calling in regarding their Workspot client. But you know, you can host apps on there if you wanted to. You could you know, do all of the things that you would think of in a on-premise VDI environment, or strictly Azure or AWS, whatever flavor you're thinking of there. But not nearly as simple as what you can do with Workspot. It's very streamlined.
Yeah, you know, because those VMs are very straightforward VMs, not a proprietary, you know, nonsense going on in here. You can manage it all through network line of sight, similarly to the way you would manage any other image, whether it's a physical image or another VM, anywhere through SCCM or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So that is the architecture there. Now this shows you, you know, one region. You can have multiple regions around the world, and from that single web management console, you would connect into any of those regions and configure them the same way, and you'd be able to monitor everything sort of globally. So a single pane of glass is also key. Now, what that ends up looking like to the end user, you know, they could be on a single laptop or multiple monitors or all sorts of different configurations. In this case, you can see we even have a Bluetooth headset that is connected in through a USB connection. So in this case, we've got Civil 3D, we got Revit models, and we've got you know, Skype for Business going on, or Teams with the voice channel going inside there as well. Just as an example, you can do a lot of those things. And of course, like we talked about earlier, you know, the NVIDIA Tesla M60 CPU with like 6 virtual CPUs in it. So GPU, CPUs combined for that workload. And then the new AMD choices where you can go from an eighth to a quarter to a half to a full GPU, and that will be paired up with between 4 and 32 virtual CPUs and a ton of memory also. You can pick those out. Now, what people don't actually anticipate is the fact that the network speeds up in Azure are obviously gigabit network speeds, multi-gigabit network speeds. So when you open files and close them, you know, write them down, you know, it's faster than any experience you've seen before, I would suspect, all right? So now let's dig into that. Let's go directly into the Wood Rodgers experience here. And what I'd like to do is like what Mark was talking about earlier when he said Kerry really understands this from his perspective, as he's taking a look at the technology as it comes in first, and he knows the applications inside and out, and he's been there forever. So it's like, Kerry, why don't you jump in and give us that perspective? Thanks.
Yeah, so my role here at Wood Rodgers is I'm on the board of directors and I oversee the technology group. You know, kind of our mantra is working principles. So I'm in design and working on projects on a daily basis, along with those other roles that I play within the company. I've been here for 17 years. When I first came to Wood Rodgers, the biggest difference I noticed between our company and the companies I'd worked for previously is the culture and this company's willingness to invest in technology. As the board member that runs the technology group, we have kind of a unique situation here where we have a CAD group, a GIS group, and like most companies, we have an IT group. But we combine those three different groups within our company to form the technology group, because they've got to interact all the time, and we want them to be consistently moving through a DevOps format to kind of provide the best user experience for the people that are doing the design work for the company. We do a lot of our own custom programming in AutoCAD and GIS, and then we've also tried to marry those two technologies together to take advantage of the database availability within GIS and exploit that for use within AutoCAD. When we initially started working with Workspot, we initially started it just for our remote offices. It gave us the ability to provide IT support and the custom programming for those remote offices and made them feel like more a part of the bigger company. We wanted to make sure that they didn't feel like they were an outlying office and got limited service, or were just kind of an office that wasn't supported by the larger corporate office. So with Workspot, that gave us the availability to provide them with high-end workstations for AutoCAD, GIS, and then our Office 0365 suite. We do a lot of water modeling in those outside offices, and those usually take a lot of high-end desktops in order to do that. Initially, our Oakland office was set up with a high-end water modeling desktop, and in that situation, when they wanted to use it, they would have to check out time for the modeling machine. So they would have to check out models. They worked on projects for multiple locations, so they would have to pull the data down from our Sacramento server, reserve time to run them on the modeling machine overnight, and then come back in the morning and hope that everything went smoothly, and then pick up their work in the morning. So that caused a lot of issues for us. We were able to get the work done, but it definitely wasn't the most efficient way. So when we moved the Oakland office and some of our other remote offices up to the cloud, that helped accelerate our shift to a kind of a cloud first movement. It's a transition for us. So that was kind of our first step into that. And we really saw some huge benefits. With the modeling software in particular, the models that we were running overnight, we can now run on these machines in minutes, and people have access to a machine that's capable of running those models. It's the machine they work on every day. So now they don't have to try and coordinate time to run different models. They can just continue on with their work and be connected to the multiple projects that we have going on in other offices.
Hey, Kerry, there's a question that came in. You mind if I pop that right in here?
Sure.
Excellent. And by the way, keep those questions coming, and we will handle those as we go and save some for the end as well. It says, do you use AutoCAD MEP 2019 with Workspot? He says, I have about 170 engineers that I would like to use this technology.
I don't think that we do. As a civil designer, I know we use a couple of the other Autodesk suites. We use InfraWorks. Paul may be better to answer that question. I know we run some pipe modeling software through there, but I don't think it's the MEP suite. But with all Autodesk stuff, I mean, the AutoCAD itself was started as an architectural, it was mainly for architects, and it kind of moved into the civil space. And I think in most of their applications, you can kind of see where their backbone started with it. There's still some things in Civil 3D itself that you can tell it started as an architectural design software.
Excellent. Yeah, and that was a question from Raymond, and I can get back to him later with some other customers that are running as well. Paul, did you have something?
Yeah, I had something on that. We do run Plant 3D. We are doing that. I mean, basically, once you're on the AutoCAD platform, you know, the AutoCAD is the basis for all of that, and so all of the different applications are going to run fine in Workspot as far as processing power.
Good. And Civil 3D is one question that came up from Matt, and certainly that's part of your demo today. You guys are big Civil 3D users, so that's cool. And then, you know, Brent also asks us, like, how about printing these big models?
You know, most of our stuff goes into a set of improvement plans, so we don't do a lot of like shifted prints where we're looking at the 3D model itself. We will use like the ortho view to kind of rotate the model to make sure we don't have any spikes in it or things that don't make a whole lot of sense. But when it comes to printing, we do show those models as contour lines. We also will look at some of the pipe network stuff in 3D space. We can make sure that the conflicts and clearances are taken care of, that we don't have any of those. So we do use the 3D aspect of it quite a bit. But when it comes to printing, we're really heavy on just improvement plans. So it's 2D printing, but we've been able to do quite a bit of improvement with what we used to do with the LDD model when we moved to Civil 3D.
Cool, thanks.
So when we made the shift to Workspot, like Mike said, we're kind of a multidisciplinary firm. There's a lot of different software suites that we use. GIS is one that we've used for quite a while. I think there's a lot of companies out there that use the Esri platform for their GIS work. We've got a GIS group in-house that does a lot of custom programming for our GIS suites. And when we moved to the Workspot environment, that was actually one that went really smoothly because we had already pushed to the Esri Enterprise solution. So we had put in some of that effort ahead of time, and we moved to Workspot and started pushing more towards a cloud-based infrastructure. The GIS transition was really smooth, and we saw some significant improvements there. In addition to that, with making those two software packages work together, our ArcGIS and our AutoCAD, we're integrating some of the GIS database capability to manage some of our AutoCAD objects. If anybody's worked in Civil 3D or built large pipe networks in Civil 3D, you know that the drawings get large rather quickly. So by integrating that with GIS, we're able to create those large models and have people just check out the portions that they're working on. So we have a single source of truth model, so to speak. So multiple users can access the information. They can check out the section that they're working in, and it also allows us to manage that data so that if somebody else is working in the same location and they try and make a design change, if that information is already checked out by a user, they're notified that it's locked until it's updated. They can see it, but they can't change it. So it gives us the way to manage our data and give more people access so we can have multiple users working on the same project at the same time. So with the shift to Workspot, AutoCAD was actually the problem child. With the user experience that we're trying to promote with the culture of our company, we want to make sure that as we introduce this new technology, we're not providing a lower user experience for our employees. So AutoCAD was one that took some tweaking to get that to work as we want it to, as our employees expect in order to maintain that culture. So since AutoCAD's not really set up for a VDI environment, we saw small delays in response time when it came to just normal everyday drafting. The user experience and the day-to-day drafting stuff was less than what we would see on a desktop. It also kind of amplified any inefficiencies that we had internally when that moved to a VDI environment. Those kind of were amplified. So we really had to do some back-end work in order to figure out what in the VDI environment needed to be tweaked in order for AutoCAD to run smoothly to mimic that desktop environment. So the biggest thing we found is there's really no magic bullet that fixes everything. So we went after as many bullets as we could find in order to have incremental increases in the user experience and speeding that up. So to start, we moved all of our custom programmings to Azure into the cloud. So all their reference libraries, anything that AutoCAD references or pulls from on the data side is located in Azure. So we have high-speed access to any of that information to make AutoCAD run smoother. We made multiple adjustments within AutoCAD. There's a lot of new features that come out with AutoCAD every year. Some of them people use, some of them don't. So we went into the software itself and started changing settings to get it to perform better. And most of the users, when we sent out our what settings needed to be changed, they didn't recognize the settings because they didn't use the things that they controlled. So it was, we made those incremental improvements, as long as with some Workspot tweaks on some of the video stuff that we saw some improvements. We then tested and tweaked and tested and tweaked until we got to a point where we thought everything that's within our reach has been explored. Following that, we actually engaged Autodesk to step in. We provided them with the Workspot machine and asked them to test to see if they can replicate some of the issues that we were having. AutoCAD, our AutoCAD department is actually really tied in well with the programmers. Paul's got a long history with Autodesk and knows a lot of the programmers there for a long time. So his relationships were key in making us able to get Autodesk engaged to kind of look at some of the back end stuff to see if they could help with that. So they had a few suggestions, we incorporated those, and we've seen some pretty significant improvements in the user experience. The positive side out of the box for AutoCAD is like Paul touched on earlier, the modeling side of AutoCAD, we saw significant improvements right out of the box. The models run a lot faster, corridors run a lot faster. Some of the back-end programming that Paul and those guys do, it runs faster on the custom programming side and allows our users to really provide multiple iterations in the same amount of time. So they're running multiple models. They can do multiple iterations without waiting on the machine to respond. It's actually really quick when it comes to the modeling side. And it helps when our larger models are more easily handled. We get a lot of users that get impatient. They see the spinning wheel and they try and react, and AutoCAD will crash because it's just trying to figure out what you're trying to do. But we've seen a significant improvement there, which has helped get people answers quicker and has helped move our work along.
And there's a question coming in on the data side, which is, if you can talk about the workstations and where they're accessing all these files, are they Are they in network file shares within, Azure? Are they on Panzura? Is there a combination, a mix there?
They're on an Azure server. So we actually have and it's essentially our AutoCAD file that has all of our AutoCAD reference files in it, all of our custom programming, fonts, Lisp routines, everything we use on a day-to-day basis for the users is actually in Azure, and it's shared, and we set up our profiles to point them in the right direction. So all the support paths and everything are set for the user as soon as they set our standard profile.
That's great. Cool.
So with the efforts, and again, the biggest benefit we've had, I mean, I like to say a lot of times you're better to be lucky than good, and we made some significant investments to move our technology to the cloud. We made some investments in people. Mike is actually one of them. We hired him on last year to really get involved with the technology group and try and help us make that more of a cohesive group with IT. So everybody's working together to find what parts of their pieces of our network and system they can improve on to work better with the other groups. And they've done a really good job of coming together and put in a lot of work to get us 120 workstations in 11 days. So since the engineers that we've had here for so long rely so heavily on our custom programming in AutoCAD, the Workspot has helped us become more efficient as an engineering firm and kind of exploit those tools more. Paul will talk more about that in a minute, but now with our adapting custom tools and providing unparalleled capability in our VDI environment, the users are seeing the benefit, and as a company, we're seeing the benefit of that as well. On the GIS end, we've made that same transition. Last year, it's been right about 18 months that we've been working on that transition. We do have field crews, we have testing and inspection. So those guys now in the field have a laptop or an iPad or a mobile device. We're using ArcGIS and Survey123 and some ArcGIS mobile apps that we've designed that our inspectors and surveyors now use while they're on the job as they're collecting data, managing that data, getting it uploaded to the cloud. Those mobile resources have allowed us to have that stuff sent to the cloud, filed in the right job, and put in the right place as they're collecting the data in the field. And that really has cut down our time in the office for those people that they're used to being in the field, and that's really what we want them to concentrate on. So a lot of the filing stuff and job management stuff is taken care of on the back end through some of Esri's tools that we've used, and then some of them that we've put together ourselves. So the mobile working environment and having those capabilities at your hands, whether it's in the field or at home, has been really a significant improvement for our business overall.
Excellent. So thanks, Gary. Hey, and with that, we're going to transition over to Mike. And Mike, I'm going to hand you a question, a couple that just came back to back, which as they talk about data, the question was, is the project data there too, also in Azure with super high speed access? So maybe you want to just cover that in this slide in your next part. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. We absolutely. We were a Panzura shop. We still are. We had Panzura at some of our remote sites, in Oakland and Pleasanton, San Dimas, Las Vegas, Reno. Much like I'm sure a lot of you, have that same type of environment or the issues with the distributed file system. So I kind of mentioned maybe I didn't, but we do have the Panzura up in Azure. We are putting our data there because not every single person that we have is necessarily on Workspot right now. Some people do work in the office, and we have more than just the our CAD drawings and some of that other data there. With the GIS, we did move that into an enterprise GIS server that's within Azure, running its own SQL. We have multiple instances of the SQL server, so that way we can kind of load balance out some of the different production work we're doing there. So that's actually one of the easier parts of doing all of this is kind of, the data is cheap in the cloud, and where you put it is really dependent upon how the rest of your environment is kind of set up and what you need from a distributed file system. When we moved all of those, all of our standards and the rest of the configurations onto an Azure server, that's really because Wood Rodgers has always leveraged technology as a way to outperform competitors and part of our business model. So with these teams, like our CAD team and our GIS team, and in technology and IT, we're constantly kind of pushing that envelope and creating things that are going to make workflows faster. It's going to make things work better. It's going to make us be better than our competitors. So when doing that and putting it there, that investment into that structure, it makes sense for us because we need that speed of service. We want it right there. We want that single source of truth. And then we can work on our on-premise stuff. We have some of our back-end non-production for testing. And then once we make that work, then we push it back out to the cloud, So we're very fortunate. Wood Rodgers is exceptional when it comes to that. One of our another catchphrase is that we live every day is challenge the way things are, create what should be, and that's exactly what we keep in the forefront of our minds when we're looking at technology and technology as a business driver, and integrated with the strategic planning of our business. So, all of these things that we do tie directly to our business and the plans in our business. So, we had our physical towers with GPUs on them, but GPUs are expensive. I don't remember which model we were using, but they're about around $1,200 each that we were utilizing. So we have this Dell machine that's costing us $5,000 to $6,000 to purchase. Trying to keep updated with Windows 10, trying to get off of Windows 7. We do a rollout of CAD every 2 years. So we've got 2019 out there, we have 17 out there, we got 16 out there, we've got 12, all different things based off of what our customer needs are. So trying to balance all of that is can be difficult. But when looking at a virtual desktop environment, being able to create those different images helps streamline that. The only delay that we really have when it comes to deploying these things is the licensing of a lot of the AEC software. We know, and as I'm sure you do, a lot of the AEC discipline or vertical is behind when it comes to a lot of this VDI stuff. That's why it took us time to kind of, we had to really kind of do a lot of testing and configuration when it came to AutoCAD. The way that AutoCAD works just with your Windows environment is enough of a struggle, as I'm sure most of you know. We would experience crashing at times. We would experience some of the other issues with the high compute and that slowdown requirements, which is why, going to the Workspot with the dedicated M60 GPU is so important for us. It speeds all that up, but you do have to go in there and figure out why AutoCAD or why a transportation software or whatever you're using is behaving in the way that it does. So you really got to kind of get intimate with it and do your testing and evaluation. So we really, like Kerry touched on, we really got into a DevOps mentality. You have to get in there with the programmers. You got to get in there with the GIS backend, and application developers, and integrate those three pillars of technology into a singular group to work together to make this thing really work. Bringing that expertise and then getting that feedback, as in, just like in an agile methodology of continuous delivery, continuous feedback from your customers, having that open communication and striving to get to always better, continual improvement. It was a key aspect for this. And I'll tell you that the team that we have from CAD, from GIS, and from IT is just phenomenal. The work and effort that they put into it with this COVID pandemic was just unbelievable. The we were forced by circumstances to really accelerate our program, accelerate this deployment, and we were able to do that because of the dedication and that teamwork and the feedback from the engineers themselves. That's why we, like Carrie talking about it from an engineer's perspective, it's really important so that way you guys that people, your users, will understand these capabilities from their perspective as well. So yeah, we wanted to be, yeah.
Oh, just one thing, yeah. So because of the time right now, it is a few minutes up on the hour. What I just want to do is to tell everybody we are definitely recording this webinar. And we will go a little long here because we definitely want to have time to go into the live demo for sure. So we're going to record the entire thing, and I'll send you guys the recording. We'll put it on our website and I'll send it to you. You'll miss nothing. I hope you guys can stay with us and see it live and ask questions along the way. If we don't get to your questions today, we're going to follow up with every one of you guys and get to these questions with you personally afterward as well. So just to let you know, the recording will be sent out to you guys. We certainly hope you can stay. Mike has got some great details he's going to run through on this slide, and we're going to cut over to Paul and do the live demo from his home office. Okay, thanks, Mike.
So so in this environment, being able to utilize this technology on any type of platform, as people are working from home, they're using, I've got users that say they're using some HP laptop they bought 10 years ago. They haven't even used it in 2 years, and they're up and working productively in Workspot using AutoCAD and still producing the high quality products that we do for our customers. And what you're going to see with Paul here, Paul is actually configured over a Wi-Fi hotspot on his cellular phone because he does live out there. Doesn't have very good internet, so he's going to be showing you this production on through his mobile hotspot. But one of the things that I'll say, and I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds, is the traditional virtual desktop infrastructure environment when it comes to these programs of that mouse lag, the jump, the panning, the zooming, all those everyday muscle movements that the engineers are used to being smooth have been an issue in traditional VDI environments. Again, that goes back to the software and how the software actually interacts with those virtual desktops and getting that frame per second tweaked properly for that type of user coming back to them for that user experience. And that's, I think, is something where, if you said Citrix 6 years ago to somebody, they kind of cringe or whatever because of that poor environment. You don't have that with Workspot. But you do have to get in there and understand how your programs interact in that environment, and you have to do some tweaking. We do both the GPUs and we have the Power VMs for just like GIS users, or some of our other corporate comms who are doing Adobe Creative Cloud and other high graphical things that don't necessarily need that GPU, and they're working great. They're working better than the on-premise for sure. And you can't deny the significant improvement that you have with this dedicated M60 when it comes to these high graphics and renderings and modeling, like Carrie was talking about, where you would normally start a process and then you go take a lunch and come back and okay, then I can continue my work. That stuff doesn't even exist anymore when you're in this environment. So, and then the last thing I want to put out was the Workspot support team is fantastic as well. As we were really working and helping tweak this, we partnered with them to share information back and forth to make this product work better, for both us and future customers. And the level of support that we received from them it's great. I mean, I've worked with a lot of vendors, both in the DoD and in the civilian side, and I can tell you that they are up there at the top, if not the top, when it comes to responsiveness, getting down and deep into the weeds and testing things out with you. So, that's another aspect that I think is just phenomenal when it comes to Workspot.
Wonderful. So thanks, Mike. And and we appreciate that. Partnering with you guys is amazing. We work together closely with you guys, and we know you got smart people on your side that come right to the phone or email, and response time on your side, on our side is what's really allowed us to be so successful. The one thing I'm going to do right before we pop into seeing the live demo with Paul is just grab a quick poll question for you guys. This question is like, what percentage of your workforce that is new to remote working will remain primarily remote? An interesting thought here, like what percentage of them will really, you see value in them being remote where you didn't before, and you're really thinking about, having a primary part of their week. It could be 3 days at home, 2 in the office. It could be a blend like that, but what's that percentage, right? So get your votes in there. And I will go ahead and then lock in and close the polls and share the results. So it's nice, a nice even distribution there. About 30% or 25% of the folks, 30% of the folks think about 25% of them will stay home or more. It's an interesting distribution, and it's a great question that I think everybody can ask themselves is like, how effective was this, and how important is this to the business as far as business continuity and so forth, right? And the last polling question of the day is like, thanks for joining us, and like, how can we best reconnect with you guys? So let us know what it is you would like from us to do to reconnect with you guys, to share more information, reconnect with the customers directly with ourselves, get a POC going for yourself, get your hands on and so forth. Just let us know your level of interest here, and then we will definitely rock and roll. Okay. All right. Now with that, what I want to do is just click this right over and go into Paul. Hey, Paul, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. All right. Well, here you go. We got the reintroduction slide. Paul's going to show you some civil 3D and some other applications and so forth. But before he does that, just super quick, we want to talk through your environment. You are out there, man, and you have this really challenging environment, and you're still productive. I would say you'd have one of the most challenging environments of mostly anyone that's on the phone. So why don't you describe that and then tell us what you're seeing, and then we'll do the live demo. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as head of CAD technology in the company, I guess maybe it's appropriate that I should be have the worst internet connection. But basically, I've taken my Alienware laptop home, and that's because we do VR and AR work and experimentation along the way, and I needed something powerful for me. But honestly, I could run on a very inexpensive laptop. Right now, I have a monitor, a 27-inch monitor up. Normally, I run a 43 or up, and a few other monitors at work. And then, but my screen laptop is actually 4K, so I put on my binoculars and I look at my 4K resolution on my laptop. My internet connection at best is 8 megabits down and 3 megabits up. I can tell you today, I'm not getting that today. I don't know if I'm getting 1.7 up, if that. I did want to correct Mike on one thing today. I've been playing with the hotspot off my phone yesterday because we have another challenge here that we have a combined family unit, and everybody's trying to work, and so we're fighting for bandwidth. And so I set up hotspots, and I was working on a hotspot most of yesterday, and I had this beautiful performance that I was very excited about. So right off of my iPhone. So by the way, Mike, you'll see that bill coming in on my data for you, just FYI. Okay. So anyway, basically, working at home is a challenge, but family has adapted, and we're doing great. And sitting with my grandson Bryce here, so they're over here spending time with us. Not all grandparents can have their kids with them at this, grandkids. So I'm really appreciative of that. And with that, I'd kind of like to, talk about, what we're seeing with this. And I can kind of do this as I'm presenting. So if Brad, if you want to go ahead and share, or have me start sharing,
Yeah.
I'll do that at the time.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll go ahead and make you the presenter, and then you can share the screen that you see. Now you're connected into Azure, and you're running GoToWebinar up inside of Azure, which is a smart thing to do.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I'm running it inside, so I'm actually calling it on the phone because I don't have the connection for my webcam on my Workspot. I haven't set that up yet. I do run it on my laptop, but I wanted to be able to show you this. And so, basically, I have a model in here. This is InfraWorks, in one of our models here. This is a tide gate up in Oakland, and you can kind of see the performance, and it might be a little choppy for me because I'm doing all the download with the video call right now, but it's still moving fairly smoothly, and hopefully you can see that. What I did want to point out, as long as Mike brought it up, I wanted to bring up the fact that, let me go ahead and minimize a couple of things here and show you that I've got Civil 3D up and running. I'll come back to that in just a second. But I wanted to go ahead and come over. Let's slide this over. I wanted to bring up, kind of reinforce Mike's point here. If I can do that, if I can find out where this is, where I left it. Maybe I can't. Well, we'll come back to that one. But anyway, let's take a look, some of the products and stuff we're running here. I wanted to show you, I captured a video, and if I remember where I put it before we end, I captured a video of me running on a hotspot with 3 megabits down and 0.5 megabits up, and it was really smooth and nice, and I worked all afternoon on it yesterday, which was great. So, what are some of the products we work with are not only InfraWorks, but I'd go ahead and bring up Revit. We work with Revit. Revit performance is pretty nice. It works pretty well, and I don't know, it's very smooth on my side right now. I hope you're seeing that. And I can take it and I can spin the model, obviously, and I can work with this because all we're downloading is graphics, right? And all the horsepower for Workspot is up in the cloud. So, we use Revit, we use Plant 3D, we use InfraWorks, and then again, we use Civil 3D. Civil 3D is kind of a bread and butter because we do a lot of, planned production work and improvement plans. In this particular case, I have over a 50 megabyte subdivision drawing up. Basically wanted to bring this up and show you that, that running here in the cloud, it made things so fast. The drawing load is so fast. I have to say it's at least twice as fast, and computationally, I'd say it's probably twice as fast. For the applications of running, I'll show you that in just a second on one little aspect. The drawing synchronization, for those of you that use Civil 3D, drawing synchronization is lightning fast. And so I think that of anything, as I've been looking at this, I'm waiting for it to synchronize. Oh, don't run synchronize. Don't let it auto synchronize. We don't care because it synchronizes so fast. So that's really nice, where we can take our data references and we can just let it fly in there. So just computationally wise, just as an example here, this is a very large, like I said, 50 megabyte surface. I'm going to right now clear here, and I'm just going to rebuild this volume surface in here. And I just want you to see how fast this runs. Okay, now we're into it about 2 seconds. We're into it about 3 seconds. And at the end of 7 seconds, it's done. And so, we recalculated the volumes on that. So, it is really quick. So that's where you're going to see performance issues or performance changes for sure. And the drawing open, the synchronization, the drawing saves, all of that stuff is much faster computationally. Applications that we run are very, very much fast, or that we built are very much faster too. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing on this side. And even though it's showing it to us over GoToWebinar, it still looks fairly smooth. It's even smoother to you, I would imagine. And so, yeah, what else do you have to show here?
Well, let me show you. Let me go ahead and bring up a 3D model here.
Okay.
Let me bring this up. Sorry, get my crosshairs back.
Hey, while that's going on, while you're bringing that up, Carrie and Mike, another question came in, which is, do you eventually see putting all the data in Azure and everyone will be using Workspot? This came in from Brent.
That's the goal.
Well, yeah, we essentially are there already. I mean, we because of our DFS, a lot of our data we have it on premise, but we also have everything up in Azure. So almost all of our engineers are on Workspot right now. We have 160, I think, that are working in there right now. So we do have all of our data there. The only difference are some of the support programs for the business that we don't have on there yet. Things like VST and things of that nature. And we used to have a Skype server, and but then as we transition to O365, that's all cloud based. So we're definitely a cloud first business now.
That's nice. And so that's how it started. You sort of put your toe in the water here and you had, a number of workstations and desktops that were out there. And then when everyone was sent home, you were able to turn the volume up and sort of blow it out. So, and that was the key. You had to get your data up next to the workstations and then push the button and replicate and get yourself up to 161.
Yeah, exactly. We had about close to 40 already using Workspot. We started with 2 engineers in our office in San Diego. We didn't want to go and put a Panzura controller down there for 2 people, all the rest of that infrastructure. So we went, and that was our kind of after our proof of concept, our first production environment. It took us some time to figure out what that would look like and how to make that environment better. And then we went to our Oakland office and moved them onto Workspot, and that had a lot to do with our use of enterprise GIS, up in the cloud, because they do a lot of the water resource type of work. And then we expanded. We opened a brand new office in Roseville, California, and that was going to be the Wood Rodgers office of the future. And we built that one out. It's in a great building, and I think the building was built in like 1908. It's very much the Wood Rodgers style, when it comes to that look and kind of our culture and everything. It's a 3-story building, beautiful building in downtown Roseville. But if you're an IT guy, you cringe when you hear that, right? An old building made out of brick and mortar, and but what we did was we just threw in some Wi-Fi access points there. We use SD-WAN with firewall, and we deployed thin clients over Wi-Fi there, and that is what we do. So we've got our thin client. The users have 2-3 monitors running Workspot 100%. We're using VoIP phones there, and everyone's got their wireless keyboard, wireless mouse hooked up to it. So it's super clean looking. And incredibly powerful. And you don't have to buy a domain controller. You don't have to buy a file server. You don't have to buy an additional Panzura, any of that. I mean, that saved us a lot of money when it came to deploying this. So,
That's the interesting analysis, and some of the other questions in here too is years ago, companies would provide the cell phone and the laptop, and now it's like, of course you bring your own cell phone, and more often it's BYOD, bring your own device, whether it is the smartphone or it's the laptop. Now it seems it's almost bring your own house. And if it's bring your own house, then you have an opportunity to actually think into the future on your how much space, office space, and how many cubes and all that sort of thing. Whether you do hoteling and shared space and that, save money there.
Yeah, if businesses aren't out there looking at how this current pandemic is impacting their business for the future, as far as technology is concerned, as far as your business model, as far as some of your workflows, some of your efficiencies to be had, then you're going to be left behind, in the coming years. So that's, like I said, Wood Rodgers has always leveraged technology to be the best performing engineering firm out there. We're going to continue to do that. It's a great environment. It's a great company. And like they said, they give us the tools and get out of the way, let the experts do what they got to do. And that is, we live and breathe that every single day, and we're constantly making improvements. And we're going to continue to with our current environment. And I know that this company is already stronger today than it was 3 weeks ago. So I'm sure that the others can echo that, and our customers are aware. We're out there still producing. We're producing results on time. We're producing results early. The business is there for us, and we're going to continue to grow.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. And by the way, as we're wrapping up now, Carrie, any of your thoughts along the same lines there? How does this impact your business? How do you see yourself going forward? And we'll go to Mark right after that as we wrap up.
I would say that the move to cloud-based company, we didn't have our toe in the water, and then this pandemic kind of walked up behind us and pushed us all the way in. So I think that that technology's been around for a while, and as companies get more and more used to shifting with the technology, I think if you've got a good technical team that knows how to do it and how to get you up there as quickly as possible, the next biggest hurdle you're going to deal with is really user experience and making sure that those people that are actually doing the work are buying into the technology and giving you the feedback you need to improve the experience for them.
Exactly. Well said. Hey, and Mark, we're getting near the end here. Why don't you take us home?
Always at the start and always at the finish.
Yeah, your thoughts on where this is going to take us next as the thought leaders that all you guys are. It's just amazing to think what you're thinking now.
Well, I'll tell you, we've all gone through so many changes in the last 6 weeks in terms of how we operate our businesses, especially when it comes to those folks that really, like I say, need a lot of the computing power. And I think Carrie put it really, really well that it just so happened that we were already vested in the Workspot platform to get us, and we were vested in the idea of expanding that platform to encompass generally most of our company to get into the future and stay in the cloud and manage our items, such as what Carrie and Mike have indicated in the discussions today. I'll tell you, I am just, I as well as our board of directors at our company, we're extremely pleased as to how quickly we were able to adapt and get our people home and working. Not only for our company, but for them as well, in terms of keeping them gainfully employed and getting our work done. I also, this might sound a little bit mushy, but I am really impressed and very thankful to the Workspot team for coming together and just making a phone call on a Thursday before on March 12th, saying, or for having Mike coordinate with you folks prior to March 12th in terms of the number of licenses that we could get, how fast can we get them, how fast can we implement them, how quickly can we turn this thing around. And I think I don't think we could ever even got anywhere near to where we're at today without the support of Workspot and what you folks have done. So I just want to thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, no, it's been an amazing partnership. We love working with customers like you guys, not only working to get your company as productive as we can together as a team, but also coming together with this webinar and working and providing your time right now to share this story is just, again, testament to the amazing talent you guys have, the thought leadership and the culture in your company. So I want to thank everybody. So thank you, Mark. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Mike. And thanks, Paul, for that amazing demo that you're still driving down there. I love that, man. You're doing a great job. And you know what? Thanks to the entire audience and everyone that stuck in with us to the end. We still have a lot of people on the line. And I realize we did get to, there's some questions here, but don't worry. I'm going to take those offline and we will get to every single one of your questions. And I'm sure you're going to have more. So you guys have my email address. You can always send things to me directly. So once again, thanks to the entire Wood Rodgers team. It's a testament today, again, of your thought leadership and your execution today and your employees being home safe and productive. I feel mushy about that as well. So I love the personal part of this. You guys can probably tell. All right. And so thanks to the team and thanks to everyone out there. Thank you for all your time. I will clearly send you guys the recording of this. And if you have any further questions, jump on. Realize this is a webinar series and we have future webinars scheduled of all sorts of other wonderful content, and I'll reach out to you guys and let you know what that is. Okay? Thanks, gang.
Thanks.
Yep,
Thanks,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.